picture of me. And there's a picture of Greta Thunberg. Now, later, the ad was updated to include the commissioner of baseball when he confirmed that he indeed would be on this broadcast as well. So that's the ad that then ran. Apparently, someone with a blue check on Twitter saw the initial ad and was outraged and claimed that we had booked Greta Thunberg to be an expert on a coronavirus panel with other health experts. Then, of course, Donald Trump Jr. jumped into this, which is weird because I thought he was allegedly running whatever remains of the Trump organization. I mean, shouldn't that be like a really busy job since it's, allegedly such a great big company? Anyway, once DJ TJ started typing, then other people with blue checks on Twitter also started doing their thing because everyone has to produce content these days. That's what it's all about. It's like a tween on TikTok. You gotta produce content lest you miss out on a cycle of phony outrage. Then someone who's apparently a reporter at Forbes wrote an article about this alleged controversial booking and the concern about it. And the New York Post today wrote about it as well, claiming we were having her on a panel, which is what the first person on Twitter was claiming, which was made up. It was made up then, it was made up today in the Post. And in case you think this is some sort of cover-up, look at our past ads for shows. They're exactly the same. We had Alicia Keys a few weeks ago debuting a video for a song she released for frontline workers. Nobody thought she was on a panel with the FDA Commissioner Hahn, Governor Cuomo, and Jose Andres. None of them were on panels. They were all individual. Look, here's a promo for last week's town hall we had with journalist Lori Garrett, former Vice President Al Gore, and Spike Lee. No panel, just interviews. And again, no picture of me, just Sanjay. That's okay. I digress. Look, I get Donnie Trump Jr. attacking CNN and a 17-year-old Swede. That's like low-hanging fruit. It's like paying thousands of dollars to shoot exotic animals on a game farm. It's easy. And I know Donnie Jr. just wants his dad to love him or notice him in a way that's not mocking him, but I just find it fascinating to watch the phony online outrage machine generate content on Twitter based on something that was never real to begin with. It's kind of surreal to watch it all just kind of play out. In the words of our dear leader, sad. Sanjay, I got that off my chest.
I wanted a picture of you, actually, Anderson. I asked them to put a picture of you on the screen. They refused. I don't know what was that all about.
It's all right. No problem. That's fine. And there's, next contract cycle, maybe I'll get that right. in the writing.
By the way, you feel better now?
Yeah, I do. I feel better. It's just so weird to watch stuff that you're involved with play out in the public sphere, and this is all just made up. This is really strange. Anyway, Sanjay, thank you as always. 11th town hall. Wow, I don't know if that's a
10 more to come, I think.
Good thing or a bad thing, or that we're still doing it because this is still happening and no end in sight. Sanjay, thank you. I also want to say thanks to Rick Dright's attorney, Lisa Banks, Rob Manfred, Neil Browning, and Greta Thunberg. We should also note our invitation to any health expert from the White House Coronavirus Task Force stands for next week's town hall, so they have a week to think about it. Also, thanks to those of you who wrote in with your questions, to everyone who joined us tonight. If you didn't get your question answered tonight, conversation continues at cnn.com/coronavirus answers. The news continues after a quick break with Chris Cuomo.
The Dangote Group stands at the forefront of African enterprise. Since 1978, we've touched the lives of millions of people by meeting their basic needs. Our belief in the promise of Africa has taken us into 14 African countries, with substantial investments that will propel the continent towards greater prosperity, promising jobs, improved standards of living, and economic growth. Dangote, for an empowered Africa.
Taking on coronavirus in hard-hit communities of color. Join Don Lemon and Van Jones with Dr. Regina Benjamin and Robert Smith. Plus, messages of hope from Mario Lopez, Samuel L. Jackson, and more. The Color of COVID. Saturday.
I'm Clarissa Ward in London, and this is CNN.
너무 더워. It's an unprecedented time filled with stress and uncertainty. And more than ever, Children's Healthcare of Atlanta says parents need to make time for themselves. Acknowledge your feelings and allow yourself to feel them. Don't minimize those feelings. Avoid comparing how you feel to how others feel. We're all different. Give yourself a break. You're doing your best. Set clear boundaries. Don't get sucked into working 24/7. Set limits so you don't get burned out. Focus on what you can control so your thoughts won't spiral and get overwhelming. Take 5. Do something for yourself that's only for you. Make time for laughter and joy. FaceTime a friend. Social distancing doesn't mean social isolation. And finally, practice gratitude. It can help you focus on what you have instead of what you don't.
I'm David Mackenzie in Goma, Eastern DRC, and this is CNN. Hey everybody, I'm Chris Cuomo. Welcome to Prime Time. Some CDC guidelines for reopening are now out. The White House, for some reason, held them back. And as a result of the delay, almost 50 states have listed restrictions in some way without that guidance. Now, know this. To reopen or not is not the question. We have to reopen. The only question has always been how. And when you don't focus on that through the lens of science and smarts, you get Wisconsin. Packed bars after a court overturned the governor's stay-home order. I want you to look at the case graph for the state, okay? This is Wisconsin's total confirmed cases graph. And you allow people to go into packed bars? What do you think's going to happen now? We have the governor of Wisconsin tonight. Governor Evers did not want what you were just seeing in those pictures. He'll make the case to his state and this country. Now, the day after Trump says that kids are in great shape, there is a new nationwide warning for children. We'll give you the real deal here tonight. And we're also finally hearing from the attorneys for the accused in the Georgia killing. Let's get to the facts, let's unravel them and understand what happened there. What do you say? Let's get after it. Well, ready or not, the reality is the country is out and about again. It's always been our fate to reopen, but how you do it matters. The president's ousted vaccine chief was on the Hill today. He says the way we're reopening is wrong.
Our window of opportunity is closing. There will be likely a resurgence of COVID-19 this fall. 2020 could be the darkest winter in modern history.
That's Rick Bright. He testified after filing a whistleblower report claiming retaliation for sounding alarms. He says not only are we reopening the wrong way, but we are in a worse position right now than we needed to be.
I'll never forget the emails I received from Mike Bowen and indicating that our mask supply or N95 respirator supply was completely decimated. And he said, we're in deep shit. The world is, and we need to act. And I pushed that forward to the highest levels I could in HHS. Got no response.
A lot of media tonight spending a lot of time on the fact that when Trump heard about this, he trashed Bright and he called him, you know what? I don't care. And neither should you. That's noise and politics and changes no minds. Here's what you should focus on. The president also said something again today that should go down in history as his biggest mistake. No matter how long he's president, once again, this president made clear to you on the record that he dismisses the importance of testing.
Could be the testing's frankly overrated. Maybe it is overrated. We have more cases than anybody in the world. But why? Because we do more testing. When you test, you have a case. when you test, you find something is wrong with people. If we didn't do any testing, we would have very few cases.
You don't find something is wrong, you find out the truth. It's not right or wrong, it's called accurate. And this isn't semantics, okay? America doesn't test the most. Trump is literally blaming the quantity of cases that we have in this country on the ability to count accurately. Think about that. This is a big number. You know what I blame? Math. Listen, he doesn't want you to know the truth. Think about that. The only way to know how many cases we have, he doesn't like. He doesn't want to use it. But this is different than all his delusions of the past. He is finally dealing with something, this pandemic, viruses, cases, illnesses, deaths, that is all too real to make fake simply by saying so. The result is also too real. We are a country in crisis. Caitlin Collins is at the White House tonight. Caitlin, in terms of the White House response to what Bright was saying, they are avoiding the substance and going to who he is and trashing him. But what is the net of effect on what their planning will be like because of what he's saying?
Well, that's the question. We really had not seen HHS, the department, of course, that Rick Bright came from, push back on him in any substantive way until he started testifying today. And then they put out a lengthy statement saying, here's his claims, here's our rebuttal. And we also heard the HHS secretary do the same when he was with the president today leaving the White House. And this is how the president described how he saw Rick Bright after watching part of his testimony this morning.
This guy's fighting it. No reason to fight it. There's no reason. But more importantly than that, we've had tremendous response to the hydroxy. But I watched him, and he looks like an angry, disgruntled employee.
So, Chris, he says there are tremendous response to hydroxychloroquine. The FDA has even pushed back on that. Rick Bright also said today that he disagrees with the president's claim that he just made a few days ago that anyone who wants a test can get a test. He said that's not true and there aren't enough tests in the United States. And he also disagreed with what the president and other people have been saying about this hopeful timeline for a vaccine. The president said today he still thinks it could be done by the end of the year. Rick Bright said even 12 to 18 months is really ambitious, and that's if everything goes right. And he said rarely does everything go right when you're developing a vaccine.
Caitlin Collins, you are gold. Thank you very much for staying late and giving us the latest. Appreciate it. Be well. All right, so the CDC was finally allowed to put out some guidance on safely reopening. Now that all but 2 states have already started to do just that before they were able to get any guidance. Now, as for the guidance, look, it's better than nothing. You're seeing it now. Well, why am I underplaying it? Well, if you get to see what they are, they're basically decision trees. Is the property inside? Well, then you should clean. Is it outside? Then you don't have to clean as much. I mean, it's not the most detailed stuff in the world, and it almost reads and plays like something that was intentionally watered down. It doesn't really give any direct and in-depth guidance about anything that states have to deal with. They instead target certain employers like restaurant camps and daycares. That means, once again, governors are on their own, and it just reeks of the stench of being able to do better, whatever that would smell like. Now, what the governors have to deal with is a mixed bag, right? Because not every state is in the same situation. Some still have rising cases. Most are steady, seeing some small declines. You have a lot of states like that. Look, all the data's on the map in front of you. It's not about how I feel about it or how you feel about it. It's about facts. Now, New Jersey is one of the states where, look at the color coding. Kind of steady to dropping. So let's bring in that state's governor, Phil Murphy. Good to see you, Governor. I know you're working very hard. I'm sure your state appreciates it. We see it in the polls, but I know you see it in people's faces and you're moving all over your constituency.
Good to be back, Chris. Good seeing you in the studio, by the way. You look great. Thanks for having me.
It is good to be here. Do you have news for people tonight? Is there something they should know?
Yeah, listen, we are taking this one step at a time. You're absolutely right. The curves, that map showed that the curves that matter, hospitalizations, ICU beds, ventilators, sadly not as much fatalities. It's still spiking, but less than it was. They're going in the right direction, but we're not out of the woods yet. So we've started to take baby steps or incremental steps, and today we announced a big one that effective a week from tomorrow, for Memorial Day weekend, under certain constraints, we're going to have beaches open on the Jersey Shore. That's a big step. We take it very seriously. We did it in coordination with the shore communities and counties. We're letting them, they've been great partners, by the way, we're letting them execute the details in each of their communities. But this is a big step for us.
Scary. I know we've talked about this before, beaches especially. The culture of beach going is to be around each other. You're around each other in the water, you're around each other on the sand. What are the parameters and what are your concerns?
Yeah, the big parameters are twofold, and not surprisingly. Number one, capacity. So we opened, you'll recall, last time I was with you, we were going to open state and county parks, and that's gone quite well. New Jerseyans, by the way, from the get-go have been extraordinary in complying with all this, and that includes parks. So the two big mantras there were social distancing and limiting capacity. In that case, it was limiting the parking lot capacities. We also are begging people to wear face coverings. Similar approach to beaches. Social distancing enforced locally and capacity executed locally. And you know, the Jersey Shore, that might be selling half the tags, the daily tags, than they would normally sell in one community, or in Island Beach State Park, limiting parking spaces. But those are the two big themes of the constraints, and we've got, as I said, great cooperation from the communities and the mayors, and God willing, we'll be able to pull this off.
Now, when you say face coverings at the beach, you got to wear a mask?
Recommended strongly. Frankly, we don't want to put something down that we don't feel that we can enforce to the max, and we think at the beach that's going to be hard. We've had the same imploring at the county and state parks. Frankly, that's the one area where the compliance has been lower than we'd like. So we're going to amp up our communications at the beaches, in the parks, on the highways. We think face coverings, they don't trump social distancing, but they're a close second.
The idea of what happens if it goes wrong. In 3 weeks, if you start to see case pops, what are you willing to do?
We'll have to pull back, Chris. We'll have no choice. Again, we also have to remember the tragedy within the tragedy right now is in our long-term care facilities, which have been ravaged in the United States, but certainly in New Jersey. It's at least half of our fatalities, and we're doing everything we can to get our arms around that. So you've got sort of different elements of where we're getting hit hard right now. But if we have to, whether it's parks, beaches, we're opening up, I hope, elective surgery. We just did construction, curbside pickup of non-essential retail. We'll do pools, charter fishing. We're doing these in steps, and we are trying to monitor each incrementally. And if we have to pull the brakes, we will do that.
That'll be a tough call, but it is good that you're giving people warning ahead of time that is your option, Governor. As long as you're straight with people and you give them the numbers to the extent that you can. I know you don't have the money and the manpower capabilities to do the testing and tracing that you want to, but I know you're trying. As long as you're straight, you'll always have an opportunity here to give the case to the people of your state and the country. Good luck with what you're doing, Governor.
Thank you, Chris. Great to be with you. Thank you.
All right. Why do I say good luck? By the way, just so you know, the governor can go. He's very busy. I don't believe in luck. Okay, sometimes you have preparation meeting opportunity, but I don't believe in luck. You get what the likeliest outcome is. Nobody wants to see people get sick. Okay? I don't want to see people go to the beach and get sick. I want to see them have a good time, not get too sunburned, use suntan, have a good time, make memories. But we have to be prudent. And when you do things that fly in the face of science and common sense, you got to be ready for negative outcomes. It's good to hear the governor say, if it goes the wrong way,
요거 10개만 들고 오늘 끝내겠습니다, 운동.
it may be the right thing to do. Listen to the scientists. That's what the ousted vaccine chief said on the Hill today. What happens if they're not listened to? Certainly not by the White House, right? My next guest says everybody should be resigning. If you don't like how it's going, resign. And he knows Bright, and he's a top scientist himself. Let's talk about why he says that's the right course. Next.
Taking on coronavirus in hard-hit communities of color. Join Don Lemon and Van Jones with Dr. Regina Benjamin and Robert Smith. Plus, messages of hope from Mario Lopez.